Hi, I'm Matisiao. You're watching TAPED with Rabbi Doug.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight. But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football. Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're gonna watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug. Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're going to see Rabbi Doug. Oh, everybody talk about
Shalom, welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. We are here in Northbrook, Illinois at Northbrook Community Synagogue, and I am here with Charlotte Korchak from Stand With Us. She is an international senior educator, and I got that right. And we were just together just 3 weeks ago with the Rabbinic Conference, Rabbis United from Stand With Us in Los Angeles, and we've been together a number of times before. She's one of the most amazing speakers I've ever heard. Anybody who's ever asked me, I said, she's the person you need to go to. I want to ask you, just as a start, because you go to so many campuses, how many campuses have you been to since October 7th, or do you have any idea?
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, probably in the right... campuses specifically, maybe 20, not very many, but if you add in communities and high schools and places, then it's a lot more than that.
How do you just function in flying up and back from Israel, going around the whole country? You're always on airplanes, you're always staying away from home with people. How do you function like that and still have the enthusiasm that you have when you speak?
I mean, it energizes me. I get to go to different Jewish communities, to different universities, and I get to spread knowledge and information, and I get to empower young people, I get to inspire young people, I get to give people the information that they need. So the work itself energizes me and drives me every single day.
So just for our high school and college students who might be watching right now, tell me what was your first step into Israel advocacy in college and getting into Stand With Us before you even got hired?
I saw an apartheid wall on my campus and I couldn't sit quiet. And I went up and I started arguing, and then the next day me and my friends mobilized to be able to go out and counter the rest of what was called back then Palestinian Awareness Week, what evolved into what we now know of as Israel Apartheid Week. And I just very quickly mobilized. There was a passion in me that I didn't know was there, and it ignited when I felt under attack, and the rest is history. I decided that I wanted to know the right information and know the right tool and have the right tools to be able to go out there and combat it. But then I also started to realize that it's not just about combating and being reactive to things, but it's about being proactive and going out there and starting the conversation and helping people understand why Israel, why Zionism, and what is the Jewish story and what's the story of Israel. And that's really where we need to start with people.
Tremendous. Well, we're looking forward to hearing you answer so many questions and give your little introduction. It's really something that if anybody hasn't heard you before, they should be watching our show right now, especially if you are pro-Israel and you know the truth about what's going on in the world. Stay with us here on Tape with Rabbi Doug. Charlotte Korchak in a minute is going to be speaking to all of us, and we'll be back.
Charlotte Korchak, everyone.
I work for this amazing organization called Stand With Us, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. We're doing hardcore work ever since October 7th, but we're doing the work well before October 7th. And Stand With Us is an education organization. It's an organization that prides ourselves on the facts, on information. We don't feed people a specific agenda or a specific narrative or a specific point of view. The idea is to give people facts and information and let them make up their own minds. And anyone who knows me and has ever encountered me knows that that's what I actively try to do. Any student who's ever learned from me knows all I want is for you to be a Zionist. What kind of Zionist? I don't care. Left wing, right wing, religious, secular, I don't care. I just want you to believe that Israel has a right to exist, and I want you to be passionate about that. And I want you to speak up about that. Because when people are denying our right to exist, you being right wing and me being left wing really doesn't matter in those moments. And we got to learn how to have a united front externally to the world, but internally be able to argue and debate just like Jews have been doing for the last 3,000 years. That's the beauty of the Jewish people, and the beauty of Zionism, that it can be remarkably pluralistic, but we all stand with one unified message. We believe in a Jewish state in the land of Israel. So what I'm going to give you tonight is that facts, information. If you ask me for my opinion, I probably won't give it to you. Depends on the question, but that's usually, my response is usually my opinion really does not matter. I'm just one person. And I want you to help understand your own opinion and how you feel about this, given your own values and your own priorities, not my values and my priorities. Yeah? So with that, I'm ready to open it up. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions. I don't want to take too much time with anything else. So I'm going to stop, and you can again ask me any question. It could be definitions, it could be historical facts, it could be anything that you feel like you need to better be able to have this conversation about Israel today in the world. Go.
Something very current that happened Friday night.
All right, don't. So, something very current, what just happened here in Chicago at the House of Blues in Monticello. Not the first time, by the way. It also happened in Tucson. It happened, I think, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. This is now the third time. It's the fourth time that it's happened. Chicago was the fourth. And we're hoping Cleveland happens tonight. I was just there. My friends are supposed to be going, so hopefully Cleveland happens tonight. Detroit happened, though, last night. So that's good. Listen, we're seeing anti-Semitism very, very clearly. Oh, so Monticello has been on a tour, and on now a number of occasions, 4 occasions, his concerts have been canceled. Due to, in Tucson, it was, none of our staff will show up to staff this event. I know Chicago, they claimed that there was like calls to protest, that they wouldn't be able to provide security, but then when his team went and looked at every single thing online to see if there was actually going to be any kind of protest, they couldn't find anything. We think that the House of Blues, instead of publicly them posting about a protest, that people were calling them and really urging them to cancel this concert, and that's what happened.
They did pay him.
They paid him. All of the venues, by the way, have paid him, but the concerts were not able to happen. Monticello was a famous singer. You know the song, One Day, yeah? Sorry, that's all the singing I will do, finish school. And also just for your sake, no one ever wants to hear me sing. But yeah, Monticello is a famous singer, and he's Jewish. He is not Israeli, by the way, but he is a Zionist. There's no doubt about that. But he also sings about peace. That's his biggest message. One Day is literally a song about peace, about one day being able to live side by side, our children and their children. I mean, it's probably the most unifying message that you could find. Again, all I can say is we are staring anti-Semitism in the face. There's no other answer to this, and all we can do is continue to raise awareness and make sure that the House of Blues hears from us, and that we publicly out these either venues or companies or organizations, or in my case, schools. I faced this exact problem literally 2 days ago in Ohio, where my event was canceled at a public school because I was a Zionist. They didn't ask me what my message was. They didn't even call me to ask me what I was speaking about. There was just a lot of parents who sent emails saying, we don't want our kids to hear from this person, and I was shut down. They're getting sued, by the way, because I would put up with this shit. What Monticello should probably do too. It depends on his contract. But I think really what we need to start realizing is that when it comes to anti-Semitism right now, there has to be either legal consequences or social consequences for these individuals. That's the power that we have, right? Is to raise awareness, demonstrate that it is clearly anti-Semitism, right? That this isn't just anti-Zionism, which, let's be honest, if anyone wants to ask that question, those are two sides of the same coin, but I'll explain to you probably the much more effective way how to explain that to somebody who's not Jewish and not Zionist, who can better understand why these two things are so correlated. But that's what it has to be. And I get it, it's uncomfortable. If you're on, you should be uncomfortable. We're literally dealing with anti-Semitism straight in front of our faces, and to be honest with you, I've been knee deep in anti-Semitism for like 10 years of my life because that's my job, and still what happened to me on Friday, I've never felt that way before. Like, I got home for Shabbos, the event happened at a student's house instead of at the school where it was supposed to happen, and 30 people showed up, and it was an amazing event, but I got back to my friends and I broke down crying, because, again, I've experienced this so much, but when it's direct and it's personal, and you're silenced simply because of your identity, and by the way, the two people silenced me, one of them was a black man, and the other one was a lesbian. And I'd be very, very curious what would happen if that black man was silenced because somebody looked at his social media and said, well, you support BLM and you're black and I prefer that my students or my children didn't hear a message from you. And instead of picking up the phone and talking to that man and asking him what his message actually was, he just decided to cancel the event, which is what happened to me. It's not okay. And again, like I said, there's going to be legal consequences and there's going to be social consequences. And that's all we can do. We just got
Mayor Johnson didn't want to release police officers to that venue to protect and serve.
So I don't know if that's true. So I don't wanna get involved if I don't know all the details. True, not true?
So, Chicago just had a vote about the ceasefire.
Right, yeah. I love how Chicago voted to have a ceasefire in the Middle East. Maybe Chicago should vote to have a ceasefire in Chicago. It's just a thought. Because people have told me not to drive in certain neighborhoods in this area, and I was never told that anywhere in Israel. In fact, I probably am safer driving through Ramallah right now, to be honest with you. But anyway, what were you saying?
So unfortunately, our mayor of Chicago is, I hate to put labels, but if I was to, he is progressive.
We need more Richie Torres progressives in this world, and less everybody else, yeah? Look, I don't know, and it's not okay, and I'll tell you one thing. What I always say about anti-Semitism, and this is what I say to a lot of Americans, is when Americans say we're not safe in America, I actually tend to disagree. I think we are still safe in America. I think we don't feel safe, and that's very fair and very valid, and I'm not going to take that away from any of us, because right now it is a very scary time to be a Jew in this world, no doubt about it. But I do still think that we are safe in this country, and I always say that the time to be scared is when the police turn on you. And I don't think they did in this case. Whether the mayor's dispatching them or not, that's different. It was canceled. The thing is, if it had happened and the police refused to show up, that would be cause for concern. This is still cause for concern. But when it comes to physical safety, there still is that physical safety. It's just for how long. And that's why I say that very emphatically, for how long, not to scare you, but to tell you that we have to really put a fire underneath our tushes right now. It's time to work. It's time to be out there. It's time to be raising our voices every single day to make sure that we don't go down that path.
Right. Segueing to, you say raise your voices, are you saying do it in a proactive way or just as a response if you are experiencing something like? For
Great question. Yeah. Proactive or responsive? We all know the answer. Both. You gotta do both. You gotta always be proactive, but you also always gotta be responsive, right? When things like this happen, you gotta react to them. You gotta raise awareness. You gotta make sure that people know what's going on and can speak up against it. Proactive is a day-to-day thing that we have to do.
Having a sign in your yard, is that having pictures all over town?
Let's talk about it.
The hostages, because there are no pictures around.
Put up pictures, put up signs, put up flags, but I want to give you a much better way of going about this. Look, all the anti-Semites want from us right now is to hide. They want you to put away your Star of David, they want you to take off your kippah, they want you to take down your mezuzah, and they want you to just become anonymous. You know the biggest thing that you could do? Put up 3 more mezuzahs. Hang up 3 more flags. My colleague who lives in Milwaukee, her husband's a real hard guy. He's a tough one. And he had a flag outside his house, an Israeli flag, and somebody decided to walk up and tear it down. And he put up a sign that said, every time you tear down one of my flags, I'm going to put up 2 more. And so he put up 3 flags, and then they tore down one of his flags, and now he has 5 flags hanging outside his house, and let me tell you, they haven't touched them since. We have to be so out and proud right now as Jews. And then this is the next step. Don't fight with people who already have made up their minds. Don't fight with people who have already made up their minds. We have to be willing to start the conversation about being a Jew and being a Zionist. It's something you have to wear on your sleeve. It's something you have to be willing to start talking about at any moment. And you create a space within which somebody will be willing to ask you those tough questions that they're curious about. I'll tell you a couple stories. So the Kanye West thing happened, yeah, remember that guy, right to the Bay? So that was like worlds ago. How crazy that was only like a year and a half ago. It feels literally like forever. And I was in Vegas for a friend's wedding. My friend lives in Vegas. She could just like get married in Vegas. She lives in Vegas. So I went to her wedding. And the next day I was on a plane from Vegas to LA. And we're sitting on the tarmac. And these people next to me started talking about this concert that was supposed to happen the night before. I really wanted to go to this concert. Same with my best friend who's getting married. She probably preferred to skip her wedding to go to this concert. It was all of our favorite bands from when we were a kid. And they're talking about it, and they talk about how this concert was canceled because of wind. Chicago. You like that? It was canceled because of wind. That's Vegas for you. And I go, no way, it was canceled. That's crazy. We start talking, and somehow they were like, oh, where are you from? And I said, oh, I'm from Israel. They said, that's always, by the way, going to be my answer. I could always say Los Angeles, that's just boring. I say Israel, I bring it up on purpose. They said, wow, Israel, that's far away. You don't sound like you're from Israel. And I said, no, well, I'm originally from Los Angeles. That's where I'm heading right now, but from Israel, I'm a Jew. They said, oh, you're Jewish. I've been hearing a lot of that Kanye stuff lately. I said, yeah, it's been really bad. And I said, have you done anything? Did you say anything? Speak out? Because it's been rough for us Jews in the last few weeks. They said, no, like what were we supposed to say? There were a lot of Jews out there. I said, are you sure about that? I said, there's actually only 15 million Jews in the world. They said, what? I said, yeah, you're from Los Angeles, right? Doesn't feel that way. But you're in the 4th largest Jewish community in the world. We talked for a little bit more, and I basically, by the end, said, listen, Kanye West has 31 million followers, and we have 15 million of us total in this world, and we just can't do this by ourselves. And that was all before takeoff. Not kidding. And then I said, hopefully in the future you'll be able to speak up on our behalf, because we really need allies in this world. And then I grabbed my pillow and I passed out for my 45-minute flight. But it's also a tale of you never know who you're going to talk to. Let me tell you why. Because the next day I went back to LAX to fly home to Israel. And I passed through security, and the guy walked up behind me and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, hey. First of all, I turned around to the sight of a tall, beautiful Australian man. Oh man, if this man was Jewish, I would be in Australia right now. And he taps me on the shoulder and he said, were you on a flight yesterday from Vegas to LA? I said, yes, I was. He said, I heard you, and I heard what you were talking about. And I'm really sorry about the anti-Semitism that y'all have been experiencing. And he said, I heard that you said that you were going to Australia soon, because somehow in that conversation with the other two, I mentioned that I was traveling to Australia, I think 2 weeks later. And he said, where are you going to be speaking in Australia? Because I'd love to come hear you speak. You never know who you're going to be talking to. You never know who you can change very quickly. I was on another train. This time I was going from London to Lancaster. Super long journey. If you've never heard of Lancaster, I'm not surprised. It's up in the middle of nowhere somewhere, but one of the best universities in the UK, actually. I'm on my way up, packed train car, I don't know if you know, strikes all the time there, so not a seat in the house, we're all packed in. I'm sitting at one of those tables, I got a Muslim woman next to across me, her son, there's a couple guys, everyone's packed, and there are these 2 guys sitting next to me facing the other direction. And they're schmoozing for a while, I'm doing work, and about 45 minutes in, I'm done working. And they're talking, I think they're talking about driving, and I just like to chime in because I'm an American eavesdropper. And I said, man, people in my country drive like crazy. They're like, what country? Y'all know it's coming. Israel. And question, you don't look like you're from Israel. You don't sound like you're from Israel. I said, nah, originally, I was born in the US, in Los Angeles, but I moved to Israel when I was 9, and then again when I was 25. And he said, wow, of all the places in the world you could have lived, why Israel? And I said, well, I'm a Jew. And I don't know if you know, but it's the only Jewish country in the world. It's the only place where we're a majority. It's the only place where our culture is the culture, where I can just be me, and I also know that I can be safe. And they said, really, it's the only Jewish country in the world? I said, yep, New York's not a country. And we kept talking for a little while. They asked me some more questions, and then, at one point, the guy by the window leans in, and he goes, I got a question. Like, I hope you don't take offense to this. Like, why is it that everyone seems to hate the Jews? Great question. Now imagine if somebody saw my Jewish star on a train and came up to me and said, hey, can you tell me why is it that everyone hates the Jews? That's not going to go over well, okay? You're going to maybe think something sketchy about that. So it's weird because we wear these things and we think that all of a sudden that's going to draw somebody to us, but it won't. You have to start the conversation. You have to start talking about it. You have to show that you're willing to talk about it, that you want to talk about it. And then they'll lean in and say, tell me why people hate you. Now I'm on a train car packed full of people, and I'm happy to tell you why people hate the Jews. Not a problem at all. And I go on a little spiel. You want to hear my little spiel? Yes. It's very easy. Ready? Here it is. You know, Jews have been around for 3,000 years. And one of the reasons we've survived 3,000 years is because we've always remained other. We never fully assimilated. We acculturated. I'm standing there speaking English, right? We acculturated. We never fully assimilated. We always kept our Jewish character. And unfortunately, that made us a very easy target to be the scapegoat in every society. Anytime something went wrong, You just blame the Jews. So when the Black Plague happened, Jews weren't dying as much as everyone else because we did this crazy thing, we washed our hands. And they had us in ghettos, so we were mixing with the people who were dying. And they said it must be the Jews who are carrying the disease or poisoning the wells, right? In every generation, there's a vehicle for anti-Semitism. It's whatever is the evil of that society at any given time. So in Soviet Russia, it was the Jews or the capitalists. They just ignored that Marx, was a Jew. And in America, from the 20s until the 60s, the Jews were the communists, right? And today the Jews are the Zionists, or the colonialists. So, simply we are at fault for always remaining ourselves and choosing to never ever be like everybody else. And that made us a very busy target. And that was it. Simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. Let them ask you more questions, but let me tell you something. That day on that train ride, I educated these two guys, we kept talking, we had the whole Kanye conversation, we had the whole 15 million conversation. By the end of it, both of them stood up and said, I didn't know that you needed our help. I'm an ally. I'm gonna speak up. And let me tell you something. I was on a packed train car, and I'm not exactly quiet. I think I probably educated some other people on that train too. You gotta be willing to speak up. You gotta be willing to have loud conversations. Today I was at an airport in Cleveland. I'm on the phone telling the whole story about anti-Semitism to my mom. I was telling it to everybody around me whether they wanted me to or not. Okay? Sometimes it's being unapologetically Jewish. Unapologetically able and open and ready to talk about the hard stuff. You cannot expect that somebody's just gonna bring it up. So again, when we say proactive, it's creating a space within which somebody is willing to ask you those tough questions because you've brought it up. And that's how you can be proactive about how you can change your peers, the people in your offices, the people that you surround yourselves with who might not be Jewish, who might not understand, who right now maybe look at you and they don't see the pain deep down that we're all going through. They don't understand the grief. They don't understand the fear. They don't understand that this feels eerily similar to the 1930s for us right now. And it's something that we have to talk more about if we're going to create allies in this world and friends in this world who will stand by us. Yeah.
What do you say to on college campuses, to our students who the anti-Israel people are in your face now?
Oh, they are in your face.
Like you said, you had your apartheid wall experience.
Oh yeah.
How do they react?
How do they stand taller and proud? I went to OSU. I'm going to just keep defaulting to stories because it's how my life works, right? I was at OSU. I had 12 hours on Wednesday, okay? We knew a divestment resolution. There wasn't even a vote about divestment. We all know what divestment is, the BDS movement, the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. So they bring these resolutions onto campus where they say, let's divest from companies that are profiting from fill in the blank. Genocide, apartheid, occupation, human rights violations. In this context, it was human rights violations. They appealed. They put this motion on the ballot. It was taken off the ballot because of certain things. They appealed. They had 5 days to appeal. Well, they appealed on day 6. Sorry, there's this little thing, it's called bylaws in democratic systems. You gotta follow them. So they had a motion to get it back on the bill. And it turned into a debate. And we knew they were gonna show up. They were gonna say all sorts of stuff about genocide and apartheid and horrors of Gaza, which is exactly what they did. And by the way, I have no problem with somebody talking about the innocent civilian loss of life in Gaza. We need to be talking about it. It's tragic. We need to understand why it's happening, and we need to work to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And
They're wearing a mask.
exactly. Because when you talk about it and you understand it better, you understand exactly who's responsible for all of those innocent civilian casualties.
But your example is sounding very controlled rather than just a student, in the hallway.
Wait, hold on. Yes, but because this is starting. Yes, controlled, but also it was power in numbers. It was empowerment. It was, we're not going to settle and stand for this. I walked into the Hillel, and before I was even there, they're mobilized. They're there, they're working on speeches, they've got their Israeli flags, all of them are wearing their 152, 152, that was the number of days that day that the hostages had been held, their masking tape. They all had their Israeli flags, like I said, Jewish stars, kippahs, we wrote speeches, we went, and together, what happened by the end of the night? They lost, which we knew was going to happen. The meeting was adjourned without any vote. Our hilarious Emerson fellow got up at one point and he was like, "This is not hard. I'm not a math major, but you had 5 days," and then he went and counted each day. It was very cheeky and very funny. It's like 10:30 at night at that point and we were done. But comes out the students and they're starting to yell murderers, genocidal apologists, waving flag photos in front of our faces of murdered people. And then they started to chant Free Free Palestine. And you know what our kids did? They started to sing a Tikva. And as they walked down the stairs, and slowly their hate was drowned out by the sound of a Tikva. And I watched a bunch of Jewish students walk out that day feeling so empowered after they sat and listened to 5 hours of hate. And I take that as, yes, it was controlled and there were a lot of people, but as an individual, you could take that same message. First of all, power in numbers. I always say as Jewish students, it's good to walk around in twos, it's good to walk around with somebody else, right? Be tall, be proud. But again, the more empowered you are to stand tall and proud, the more anti-Semitism will bounce off of you. And that's what I encourage, right? The thing is, more than anything, is we can't let it get to us. All we can do is use it as a vehicle to keep educating, right? And so we just have to build up tough skin. We have to accept that there are some students, some people out there who are always going to hate us. No matter what we do, we know this. We have to cling to the people in the middle who know better and try to bring them over and help them understand who we are. And the only way to do that is, again, to be out and proud. But listen, there's other ways. Obviously, I'm saying the most basic way. There's legal routes to go. There's the admin route to go. And administrations are being dealt with. We just filed another lawsuit, Stand With Us, against MIT. We've already filed one against GW. We're going to keep doing it until there's accountability. We saw accountability already from Gil for Day, right? And we're going to keep doing it, or for Gay, McGill and Gay. We saw this happen. So again, going back to what I said initially, legal consequences, social consequences, making sure that we reach out to the right authorities, we file, we report, but also again, for me, on the most grassroots level, I need these kids to feel strong. We need our kids to feel strong when they're out there, and they'll feel strong and confident through knowledge, and that's how they'll get that courage. So for me, it's about education first and foremost. But then, yeah, when you need to go the route of the administration, the legal route, that's what we do too. And Stand With Us has a legal team, by the way. We have an entire team of pro bono attorneys who help all across the country file these briefs for our students if necessary. We file them in high schools. We were the first one to ever file a Title VI case in a high school in Texas. It's going on right now. And again, we just filed against MIT literally we woke up from the OSU vote and our strategist was filing the lawsuit, so Thursday. So, victory. But that's, yeah, there's all those methods. But education to me, I know I'm going to say that because I'm the educator, and the biggest strength that I was given was through education. That gave me the strength that I could stand and do this anywhere, and come on, bring it on is kind of how I feel about it, you know? So that's going to be my last message.
Well, that's it for part one here at Northbrook Community Synagogue with Stand With Us and Charlotte Korchak. She's going to be back with us next time for part two as she continues speaking to the community about Zionism, about Israel advocacy, and about finding out the truth of what's really going on in Israel, in Gaza, and around the world with anti-Semitism. Stand With Us is all about fighting anti-Semitism and supporting Israel. And we're so glad Charlotte's with us. Remember, you can check out our website, www.tvrabbi.com, where you can also see former shows on the web. If you want to email anybody here or email Charlotte, info@tvrabbi.com, I will forward that email, and I know she'll get back to you. Stay with us for part two here with Charlotte Korchak on Taped with Rabbi Doug. See you next time. Shalom.
This has been a Taped with Rabbi Doug production.